All right, so I'm Joe. I'm going to do a little bit of a longer form video in my hangar. Just talk about what it costs me per month to own and operate the Cub. First thing, when you're looking to buy an airplane, it's never really a right time to buy an airplane. I remember mentioning it to my wife, and it was never a good time. And it really won't ever be a really good time to buy an airplane unless you have an awful lot of money, which I don't. Some of you may, some of you may not. But the Cub is the perfect airplane because it's pretty affordable as far as airplane ownership goes. Also, I bought my airplane without telling my wife. I sent her a selfie when I was down in Georgia where I bought it. One of those things, better to ask for forgiveness than permission. It worked out okay. She wasn't happy, but she wasn't mad either. So the first thing I recommend, if you're looking for a tail dragger, especially a Cub, I'd go on barnstormers.com, and there's a little link up top if you want to subscribe to get certain notifications for new airplanes that are listed. For the Cub, I was getting one probably once or twice a week with new Cubs that were listed for about 6 months until I found this one. This one was $35,500, I believe. It was just over 35 grand. The prices have gone up a little bit. The thing with the Cub is no matter what, you're probably going to overpay. There's not much to it. 65 horsepower, 85 horsepower, 90 horsepower. Either way, you're not going faster than 85, 90 miles an hour. You can't carry anything. You can only go for 2.5 hours before you run out of gas. And if you have wing tanks, you don't really want to fly much longer than that anyway, because it's pretty cramped up there. So like I said, it's not really you're not getting a lot for that money, but you are getting a Cub. So, and that was okay with me, and I think it's okay with most people that buy Cubs. They don't buy it because you're getting a great airplane. You're getting a Cub that's a lot of fun. It's got that real classic vintage feel to it, so that's why I got it. Really, there's only 2 ways you could pay for the Cub. You can just pay for it cash, or you can get a loan. Airplane loans are funny because you need to. They don't really want to lend you the money unless it's a really expensive airplane. I feel like the threshold was about 35 grand, which was perfect for this airplane. And the other thing with airplane ownership is you can get a loan and you could stretch it out for like 30, 40 years if you want to. The interest rates, I think at the time when I was looking, were like 6%, so they're not very good. 6% over 20, 30 years, you're paying 80 grand for a 30 grand airplane, but do you care? Not really, because you're an airplane owner. So that's one of the things that makes airplane ownership a lot easier than most people think. So if you are going to get a loan for an airplane, the other thing is you want to do your research on the airplane, and the FAA is actually really good about, I think it's like $5. You get a CD, or you can get printed on paper. You put the tail number in, and they send you all the paperwork since the airplane rolled off the factory as far as 337s go, STCs, major alterations, stuff like that. So if you're interested in an airplane, do that first. You can get all the paperwork and do a little bit of groundwork before you go take a look at the airplane and get a pre-buy and do all that stuff. Like I said, it's $5, super easy, and it's a good way to get started on researching the airplane. The other thing with the Cubs is a lot of times you won't find complete logbooks. My airplane is a 41. There's some paperwork from 41, but the logbooks actually don't start until I think the 50s. So that is something that you might be able to negotiate the price based on that. So not a big deal, but you do want to have a little bit of a history as far as that goes. And also the title, registration, stuff like that. If you're going to get a loan, you have to make sure all that stuff is squared away. And it could be a bit of a pain for the seller. So just something to think about. So like I said, you can get a loan, you can just pay for it cash. Buying the airplane is probably the smallest expense that you're going to have as far as monthly expenses goes. I have a T hangar. It's a really old T hangar. You can see I'm freezing in here. There's no heat. There is electricity that you do have to pay for. It was $420 for the longest time. It just went up to $460 plus electric, which is like $10 a month, and I have a refrigerator that I run in the summer, a little LED string lights, so it's probably like 10, 15 bucks a month for electric, and I use a lot of electric. So the hangar is, so like I said, the hangar has gone up to $460 a month plus the electric. You might as well just call it $500 a month. Insurance for a tail dragger, when I bought this airplane, I think I had 12 or 15 hours, so it was pretty low time, but I did have my ATP. I was a CFI. At the time, I was north of like 9,000 hours, so that helped. And I was paying initially $1,300 or $1,400 a year. Now I'm just down to around $900 a year. And I have about 500 hours in this now, and the insurance agent said it's not really going to get much cheaper than that. So figure about $100 a month for insurance. So right now you're like $600 a month, and not including the payment on the airplane. And like I said, that could be anywhere from $150 a month, $300 a month, $600 a month. So I'm not even going to include that. Gas is another really variable thing. The gas here is like $8 a gallon, so it's pretty brutal. I don't go elsewhere to buy gas because I just have a 12-gallon tank, so I store some gas in the hangar, which is a big no-no. But in the summer months, I'm spending a lot more, but it comes out to probably around $250, $300 a month on gas, which is pretty inexpensive. It burns 4.5 gallons an hour, so you're not going to find an airplane that burns less gas than that. So, like I said, you get the hangar, the electric, we'll call that 500. Insurance, about 100. And then gas, about 300. So you're starting to get up there. And the other thing is, for every hour you fly, you should put, I don't know, some people say 10, 15, 20 bucks towards an overhaul. I don't do that at all. I'll deal with that when the time comes. Which, speaking of, when I bought the airplane for $35 in 2018, it had about 300 or 400 hours on it. It was top end rebuild. It ended up ground looping. It had damage, and for an airplane that's 80 something years old, I'd be a little skeptical if it didn't have any damage along the way. So if you see damage, I wouldn't necessarily call that a deal breaker, but just make sure the repairs are done properly. The annual can also be one of those things that changes a lot, and you'll have a pretty good idea of what might need to be replaced in the future when you're looking at an airplane. My annuals are done by someone at Cross Keys Airport, not too far away. He knows a lot about Cubs and knows a lot about fabric. He's fairly priced, but every annual that I've done, which has only been 3, there's been something kind of unexpected. Last time around, it was my magnetos, and there was this 500-hour service bulletin, recommended service bulletin, and he didn't realize that I had flown as much as I did, so that had to be taken care of, and it was a few grand. Again, not a big deal, but I would say the typical annual for a Cub is probably, we'll call it $1,500 with nothing major that needs to be done. So just something else to look out for. Tires and stuff. Every couple of years, I guess you go through tires. It's not a big deal. Most of the flying that I do is on grass, so it's not too bad. I usually just come back here to come home. And if you're looking to get a Cub, and you don't have your tailwheel endorsement, you obviously have to add that on there. But most people could do that for, I'd say, 5 to 10 hours. So figure under $5 grand for that. And the Cub is the perfect airplane to fly with low tailwheel time because it's not too difficult to get a hold of that. It's a lot of fun. But again, the Cub it's a really great airplane to build time in. And there's no electrical system in this, so you do have to learn things like hand propping, and you're obviously it's not gonna help you with your instrument rating. But you can build time quickly and have a lot of fun doing it in the Cub. So it's a great airplane. And again, mine's 1941, 65 horsepower, no electric airplane. So you can find project Cubs for 15 grand. Cubs that have been beaten up, fabric was really, really old, for probably low 20s. And then decent, good Cubs like mine which the fabric, except for this wing, because this wing had to be recovered when the spar cracked in the crash in 2018. But the rest of the fabric was done in early 2000s, and it's still in pretty good shape, because recovering a Cub is going to cost you more than it's worth. It would probably cost me 30 grand and 6 months to a year of not having an airplane to get this recovered. So you want to avoid that. You really want to buy a Cub that has everything pretty much already done. I did buy a new propeller, which I didn't need, but the nice thing about a wood prop is a brand new wood prop is, let's say, 2,500, 3 grand, where a brand new metal prop, I think the lowest you could find a metal prop for a Cub is probably 5, 6 grand. And metal props have to be overhauled. These don't, so that's another plus. But that's about what it cost me for a Cub. And figure just under $1,000 a month to own and operate the Cub, not including the payment on the Cub, which, you know, you're an airplane owner, right? So you don't mind that cost, but it is there, and you do have to kind of budget for that with the wife. So.